gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here to our second annual Gwenn A. Nusbaum WWBA Poets to Come Scholarship. And this year's honoree, we're so proud to announce, is Susan Nguyen. Susan, congratulations. We can all give her a round of applause.
Thank you all.
I want to welcome Hua, who was our last year's honoree. Welcome, Hua. So nice to have you join us tonight. And I would like to welcome the trustees who we have in attendance, which would be Dr. Jack Houlihan, our president, and Robert Savino, one of our judges, and Joanne Rea, a wonderful trustee who's in charge of our garden program. I guess I could say this now. She has a very active interest in our gardening and the lawn, and it looks beautiful. Thank you for that, Joanne. I would like to thank the judges this year, who were Victoria Chang, Juan Felipe Herrera, Jane Hirschfield, Robert Savino, and myself. I include myself in this illustrious group of poets, even though I stopped publishing my poetry when I took the executive directorship here about 13 or 14 years ago. Prior to that, I was a published poet and had studied poetry and taught poetry and written poetry and published. So it was a great honor to be included among the judges, both last year and this year. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Gwenn. She is one of the funders of the scholarship, as is Dr. Jack Houlihan, who is here, and our other trustee, Jeffrey S. Gould, who is not with us tonight. Gwenn came to me quite a few years ago with this idea, and it's wonderful to see it planted and blooming now in its second year. So thank you, Gwenn, for that. Let me read a bit of her bio for those of you who don't know her background. Gwenn Nusbaum earned her BA in psychology from Hofstra University and her Master of Social Work from New York University. She is a licensed clinical social worker with a certification in psychoanalysis, as well as a life and creativity coach, recently retired from her 40-year psychotherapy and teaching practice. Having minored in English, Gwenn maintains her commitment to the craft of writing poetry through attending educational forums, editorial relationships, and formerly a 20-year mentoring friendship with the late poet Colette Inez. Gwenn's poems have received a Pushcart nomination, honorary mention, and a Gradiva nomination, and have been published in several print and online journals, literary journals, including Brief Wilderness, Diverse Voices Quarterly, Edison Literary Review, Evening Street Review, Lips, Louisville Review, Plain Songs, Rattle, and Voices La Luna. She is the author of Normal War, a chapbook of poetry. It gives me great pleasure. Gwenn joins us in all the preparations, but she does not serve as a judge, but she entertains all the applicants and is very active in the process from the beginning to the end. Gwenn, thank you, and it gives me great pleasure to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It's an honor to be here tonight at this second annual Gwenn A. Nusbaum WWBA Poets to Come Scholarship Award. I want to thank Cynthia and Robert Savino of our scholarship committee for their ongoing time and mind to this endeavor. I also want to thank Dr. Jack Houlihan and Jeffrey Gould for ensuring the fiscal well-being of this award. I also want to acknowledge our 2022 panel of guest judges, Cornelius Eady, the late Dean Costos, and Molly Peacock, for their apt selection of our inaugural recipient, Hua Shi, as well as this year's panel, Victoria Chang, Juan Felipe Herrera, and Jane Hirschfield, for their fine selection of Susan Nguyen. As we know, Walt Whitman was a 19th century pioneer in so many ways, democratic, humanistic, passionate about the natural world, and need for environmental preservation. He was also an architect of new poetic form and content. He called for younger people to come forward, engage freely with the multiplicity of being. I am large, I contain multitudes, and create uniquely, authentically. In concert with his spirit and the birthplace's mission to celebrate inclusivity and inspire creativity, this scholarship was established to support the development of poets who demonstrate excellence in their capacity to adhere to the principles of poetic craft, as well as ability to innovate and indeed pioneer their own sense of style, subject, meaning, and indeed truth through that wonderful economy of words poetry as a genre offers. When this happens, something moves on the page in us. Transfixed, we may feel changed. Poetry itself changes. We're in a world today of national and global dialogues that may enthrall as well as embroil us. It is my hope that this scholarship will enhance the path of writers committed to a poetry circle, ethical, without walls, translating experience, transferring meaning beyond borders through generations, transforming subjects, traumatic and otherwise, into something that can live within us, enliven us, even be felt in a spiritual sense akin to Whitman's embrace of transcendentalism. I didn't say that word right, but that's okay. Put simply, I am moved by Susan Nguyen's poems. Something happens on the page in me. I change. Poetry changes. I see them in this poetry circle, believing they will continue to enrich the poetic body, given their discipline, dedication, and craft. I congratulate Susan on her work and accomplishments thus far, inclusive of her book, Dear Diaspora, which I encourage you to read. About her poetry submission, Jane Hirschfield shares, I offer my warmest congratulations to Susan Nguyen, whose poems, startling, specific intimacies bring reminiscence, present moment perception, and imaginative making into a new wholeness fully her own. These poems do the work of building grief's carrying a world not only bearable, but sustaining. And now I want to introduce Robert, who is going to also read some comments made by one of our judges. Robert Sabino is a Suffolk County Poet Laureate 2015 to 2017. He's a native Long Island poet, a board member at the Walt Whitman Birthplace and Long Island Poetry and Literature Repository Center. He is the winner of the 2008 Oberyn Poetry Prize, Association of Italian American Educators, Cristoforo Colombo Award for Literary Leadership 2019, and Town of Islip Italian American Heritage Award for Visual and Performing Arts Literature 2019. Robert is co-editor of 2 bilingual collections of Italian American poets, No Distance Between Us, Italian American Poets of Long Island, and No Distance Between Us, the next collection, Italian American Poets of New York State. His books include Fireballs of an Illuminated Scarecrow, Inside a Turtle Shell, and I'm Not the Only One Here. He currently enjoys his role as poetry mentor.
Thank you, Gwen, but I thought I sent in the short version. Let me start by saying that Susan's poetry is compelling, covering a broad span of life's elements, both in style and spirit. And while I understand the emphasis on poetry in this competition, and Susan's was clearly exceptional, I was additionally inspired by her perspective of the past its transformation to the present, and the vision of poetry's role in a brighter future, which is so important. I found that reflected in some of the poems, which I am going to share some examples of. Even though you don't have them in front of you, I think you'll be able to follow the trail. One of imagery. To the brave, I look to the daffodil. A wonderful use of imagery and specific to this poem demonstrates the persistence to grow and, though foreshadowed by fatality, emerge reborn. One of form and structure. Every time I choose English. Here in this form, which is unfamiliar to many, Susan sculpted an amazing unrhymed contemporary version of the sonnet crown. This, a rebirth of the past poetic form of Petrarch and Shakespeare. And finally, the final example is one that I felt defines a beginning and an end. It was kind of a wraparound for me. The first poem in Susan's submission was titled Letter to a Fox. I said I buried and didn't, confusing absence with desire. Opens the question of uncertainty. However, this also presents the transformation from the past to the concluding lines of the last poem in the submission, A Small Flame. So that beginning poem for me ended perfectly with the last lines of this final poem. And I'd like to read that. So again, the first poem is titled Letter to a Fox. I said I buried and didn't, confusing absence with desire. The conclusion of the final poem, A Small Flame, reads, yesterday, the foxes. Tomorrow, the woodpeckers call, crested flame bobbing in the distance. And I remember now, I carried myself out of each dark night. I am meant to survive. Memorable words, Susan, memorable words. Not only did I find the excellent context of poetry in Susan's work, but the connection to the poetic spirit. And Susan, I commend you and congratulate you. Thank you. I now have a few words that were sent in by Juan Herrera. Susan's poems crisscross through time, culture, and space. Her poetry is solid, with multi-dimensional layers depicting the symbolic relationships of animals, nature, and family dynamics. Her vision is perceptive, and her poetry is significant. I congratulate Susan on this honor. Juan Felipe Herrera. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gwen, and thank you, Robert. This now brings us to a very special point in our program, my introduction of Susan. It gives me great pleasure to have this honor to introduce her. And Susan Nguyen is the author of Dear Diaspora, the University of Nebraska Press 2021, which won the Prairie Schooner Book Prize, an Outstanding Achievement Award from the Association of Asian American Studies, a New Mexico-Arizona Book Award, and was a finalist for the Julie Suk Award. Her poems have been nominated for Best of the Net and a Pushcart Prize, and have appeared or are forthcoming in the Academy of American Poets Poem a Day series, the American Poetry Review, Poetry Northwest, the Rumpus, Tin House, and elsewhere. The recipient of fellowships from the AZ Commission on the Arts, the Barbara Deming Memorial Fund, the Virginia G. Piper Center for Creative Writing, and the 2022 Stanley Kunitz Memorial Prize from the American Poetry Review. Quite impressive. She currently serves as a senior editor of Hayden's Fairy Review. She loves to spend time outdoors, make zines, and start a new hobby every other week. She is very grateful. She has indicated to us and to me and Gwen when we met with her previously and it gives me great honor to present her to you tonight. She will read some of her poetry for us now. Thank you, Susan. And if you would like to say a few words, please do.
Thank you, Cynthia, for the introduction. And thank you everyone in this room. I'm really honored to be here. And I'm feeling really touched, actually really emotional hearing all the judges' citations. Maybe it's 110-degree heat in Arizona that's getting to me. But yeah, I'm so grateful to everyone here, all the trustee and board members at the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association, Gwenn and Jack who are on the call tonight. And Hua, I'm really excited to hear your work later today as well. Yeah, words cannot express enough, I guess, the gratitude I'm feeling right now. And I wanted to share too, just the possibility that this scholarship enables for me. One of the things I had written, the primary thing I had written, I was hoping to use a scholarship for was an upcoming writing residency that I had gotten into. And actually, I was very close to turning it down before I found out I got this scholarship, just because, you know, I got some financial aid and it just wasn't, I wasn't sure if I was able to make it happen. And then I found out I got this scholarship, and, you know, in a few weeks, I'll be heading to that residency where I'm hoping to continue work on the current project that I have my head in. So yeah, I just wanted to share that just to let you all know, like, the immediate, you know, impact that I'll get to experience in a few weeks. And it's, you know, it's such a gift, right, to know that anyone spends time with your creative work, any kind of creative work. So being able to actually get the gift of hearing some of the judge's citation, and Robert, the words you got to say about my poetry too, is really wonderful. So I am gonna read a few poems tonight, some of which I think I sent in with that packet, and some of which are a little bit I think newer. You know, my first collection, some of the themes in that book, I'm still writing about, you know, as a writer, as an artist, right? Some of the same things kind of run through your mind, kind of obsess over them, right? Still work through them. So in my current poems, I'm still writing about language, English, not only English, but just language, and the idea of language as a, you know, a place where connection happens, but also isolation and dislocation too, right? As a site for that. Something that surprised me, in addition to writing about language and still lots of family poems, is that some of my new poems also deal with, you know, talk to and about desire as well, which is something I'm excited about, just in terms of bringing the joy and desire into the current work, which I think is maybe a new strand. So I think I'm going to start with a short poem. Some of these poems, as I mentioned, are new, so this is the first time I'll be reading them. So I appreciate you all for being here and for listening. This first poem is titled Velvet. Velvet. If wielding language turns you into a blade, then let me be the blade of grass the brown mouse carries between the buffalo grass, his hole at the base of Red Rock. Place me between your thumbs and blow like a trumpet. Pluck the dandelions that have gone to seed, and watch the egg yolk buttercups catch the sun like a saucer. Let me bend and soften in the wind. I am velvet in early spring, a curtain between here and there. Please sharpen yourself against me. Please let me be the bed you rest on. I rattle the seeds in their pods. I hold the shape of what is missing. This next poem is about friendship. Landscape with girl and buffalo. I'm trying to love me despite me, the way my best friend and I loved each other through the suburban boredom, our parents' divorces. We searched for beauty everywhere. In 8th grade, she gave me a magic 8-ball. We consulted it for every little thing, which side of our faces we liked better that week, what movies to see. After school, I wove friendship bracelets around her ankles. We fell asleep to the mix CDs I burned. I wasn't in love with her, except in the way that everyone is in love with their best friend. We made a dictionary of our secret words: buffalo, noun, 2 buffaloes in love; buffalope, verb, 2 buffaloes in love, eloping. We imagined what it would feel like one day to be beautiful enough to love. We squeezed lemon juice on our crowns, sunned ourselves raw in hopes it could happen to us. When no boys noticed, we found solace in looking to each other, convinced we were buffalo. One summer at Girl Scout camp, we slept in the same sleeping bag because anything else would have been unbearable. We wanted to transcend our bodies, to be so close we could hear each other's thoughts as they occurred. This is a kind of beautiful love. 2 animals dreaming in rhythm. The next day, we were still buffalo. We stayed in our towels until the water's edge, jumped in only when no one was looking. We wanted to disappear like that, easily and with each other. I still remember the feel of wet sand beneath our hooves, how we found the holes where ghost crabs burrowed and covered them.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay, I actually think Robert mentioned this poem, A Small Flame, earlier, and I think actually I'm gonna read that one. A small flame. The year I want to disappear, there are signs of life everywhere. Fat robins on the street corners, twisting their heads to the earth, listening. The occasional blue jay, bright as an ornament. Each morning I wake and there it is, something being driven from the ground, pulled into light. Just yesterday, 2 foxes blazed a ring of fire and smoke on the wet grass. As a child, their nightly cries frightened me. Primal and primordial, I thought they were women lost deep in the woods, that it was my job to save them. No one told me otherwise. So one golden hour, I followed a whip of fire into the trees, surprised I could get so close. Darkness descended fast, left me with just my body. The moon and oleander eyes closed. I wanted to be extinguished, to be the crushed blooms underfoot. No one told me my job was always to save myself, that every time I open my eyes is a revelation. Yesterday, the foxes, tomorrow, the woodpecker's small crested flame bobbing in the distance. And I remember now, I carried myself out of each dark night. I am meant to survive. Thank you. I'll read a few more. Church. Before we ever knew of such things as electric hand mixers, there was me, my tired arm beating Duncan Hines cake batter from the red box, butter golden, switching arms every few minutes while my grandmother sat at the table, my mother washing yamun. I ached but I couldn't stop until she proved of the work, the batter smooth, all floury lumps demolished. These were good days, my father somewhere not far, all of us together waiting to light up like a stained glass cathedral. I'd hover at my mother's elbow and watch her pour gelatin into boiling water, wait for hours. I thought all good things came in boxes: cereal, mac and cheese, Jell-O. When I cracked the fridge door, the small bowls shone like the most important jewels I could own, jiggled like some expensive melt in the mouth delicacy. And the way it dyed our mouths made us pray to the church of black cherry and orange, sugared altar of our tongues. Dear St. Apricot, don't we look ridiculous? Dear St. Green Apple, please protect this honeyed hour. I thought of all the foods that could stain our teeth that we couldn't afford. Raspberries, blackberries, iced tea, but no, nothing could be sweeter than this. Okay, I think I'll just read maybe one or two more poems.
I'm going to jump in here. Jack, do you want to mute yourself? And I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. Can y'all still hear me okay? Yes, okay, just want to make sure. All right. When asked why I write about my parents, I am trying to build a bridge, but I am an animal, startled and scared. I startle and scare. The sound dies before it is out of my body. How many ways to say this? I opened my mouth and excelled in some intonations, the others caught in a web, glowing and growing in the breeze, circling its green wing around me. What I wanted to say but didn't. When my beloved says, don't assume they don't understand, don't care, they are trying, are you trying? I go to unhinge and they want to jump down my throat. Animal, not a web after all, a metal trap. And inside it, I contend that I was not born in a household of silence, language a disease. I decided it for myself, tended to it, like one that tends a garden, no, a carcass. Okay, I think I'll just end on one more poem. This one is a new one. It's currently untitled. So if anyone is good at titling and thinks of a good idea while I'm reading this, feel free to put it in the chat. All right, untitled. Today is a good day, the first in a while, and I want to unbutton the sleeves of desire, open all the windows and let April in. It's musty as hell in here. Let the sun take me by the shoulders and kiss the grooves of my collarbones. I'm alive, and I have an appetite for longing. So let them all in, the birds, the strays, even the things that buzz in my ear. A fly dizzies past, languid, then promptly forgets the open window. It knocks again and again, louder and louder against the warm glass, looking for escape. How do I tell him the way out is only a few inches to the left? God, to make a nuisance of my want until it's all anyone hears, to make my yearning known as I circle a room. I admire this lust for life, so I let him live. I fan him through the window with a dust rag, like I'm waving goodbye to a lover. When I walk by the week-old box of oranges, I cause a commotion. A shadow of fruit flies lifts, then disperses. A dead one floats in my glass. The smell of rot sharpens each day. Rings of blue mold appear one by one, until whole oranges turn ashen. Let them. Desire is not without casualty. I'm amazed. Every insect that finds its way in makes it to water. The silverfish in the sink, the gnat hovering over the dripping faucet. It's a superpower, a heightened nose for that which they cannot live without. I'd be lying if I said I never drowned them. Sometimes I want spectacle. I drop each silver orange down the drain and watch the spores erupt. Okay. And I think I'll end it there for tonight. Thank you all so much for listening. And I'm, again, so grateful just for everything you all have done and just for the possibility and opportunity you'll provide for me moving forward. And while I'm really excited to hear your work too. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I was just having trouble unmuting myself. I'm doing this on my iPhone as my computer is down here at home. So it's a small screen. But thank you so much, Susan. That was wonderful, wonderful. Let's have a round of applause. Even if we can't hear us, you can see us. And we are thrilled to hear your voice reading the poems that the judges and I have all just read in our own head through the selection process. So thank you very much. A beautiful voice and a beautiful poetic voice to match. Thank you very much. It is now my great honor to award you the Certificate of Honor for the Gwenn A. Nusbaum WWBA Poets to Come Scholarship Award. We have put the check in the mail today, your $1,500 award, And I believe, Heather, are you there? You can put the certificate up on the screen. Oh, there we go. So here's the certificate that we have awarded Susan. And Walt, it might look familiar to you. It's similar to the one you received last year. So both the certificate and your check are in the mail as we speak, so you can be watching for that. But again, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association and Gwenn Nusbaum to present this honor to you for your work in the year to come. We wish you all good success, and we look forward to having you join us next year, as Walt is doing, and give us a report on how your year has went. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
Congratulations, Susan.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful voice, great words. I felt like you took me far away.
Congratulations, Susan. And try and keep cool.
Oh, I have the AC cranked on very high. Thank you.
Congratulations, Susan, and my recommendation is to stay inside in the air conditioning.
Yeah. And I think you have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much.
Kathy, you sound like Emerson speaking to Walt.
Oh,
In the inscription in his book, a
Oh.
future poet and a great future in front of you.
I hope we don't have to tell her that she can't publish all her work, that she'll have to self-publish.
I think she's past that hurdle already.
Okay, good.
The one thing I just want to say, that I'm really honored to be in the presence of both of you poets, and I really appreciate your honesty, your authenticity, and use of language. I really think that when writing, it's very important to be honest, and I just appreciate even the way you present your poetry. And of course I wrote that I think you're going to go far and become part of this poetry circle, and I also said this ethical poetry circle without walls. And I really look forward to supporting your journey, your future. And I know that you're writing, I think of your future collection. I'm thinking of the title. I'm not going to say it because you're working on things, but I'm like just so genuinely psyched. So that's really what I want to say, just aside from the more formality of my presentation earlier. So I know we're going to hear from Wah, who is actually introducing her canine friend in the meadow behind them. Yeah, so okay, whenever.
Okay, well, audience and poets and collaborators who are here with us tonight, thank you very much for your support and your kind words. It just occurred to me, Susan, that these quotes that we're reading from Juan and Jane, I'll send them to you, so you'll have them in a hard copy. And that way, if you're making your own little scrapbook, you'll have those words in front of you rather than just on this tape. So I will make a point to do that. So now the part of our program is to be retrospective, I should say, and reflect on Hua. And she's going to speak and tell us about her past year, and she'll share some of her poetry with us also. So it gives me great honor to introduce Hua for those of you who don't know her and weren't here last year. Hua Shi is a poet and an artist. Their poems have appeared in The Atlantic, The New Republic, and The Nation. They recently won the Evan Boland Emerging Poet Prize and an NEA Fellowship and a Stegner Fellowship from Stanford, which she mentioned to us before. Hua began major poetry publication in 2018 and has received writing awards from the Yale Writing Center Essay Contest and the Boston Review Poetry Contest, among other awards, with essays published in the Harvard Review and the Wall Street Journal. Hua received a BA in Media Studies from Yale University and is currently teaching art at the Parsons School of Design at the New School. Well, I don't know if that's so current, but this is what I had. Let me finish. Hua is interested in the mind and its internal languages and writes about ways, quote, we can internally process the pain of the world. The interior world can be as vast as the actual one, a place where things happen both forwards and backwards, simultaneously and years apart, where everything is true, but nothing is real. Such eloquent words from such a young lady. I'm just impressed with that. And this is a special place in my heart, these words that I've just read, which is why I shared them with you. Hua, please join the conversation and let us know what you've done with the award, and please read us some of your new poetry.
Hi, everyone. First, I wanted to introduce, this is Wobbles. I think of him as a poet as well, but he really wanted to come in the room and sit on my lap while this was going on. Actually, his name is Rainbow, but we just call him Wobbles. I think Gwenn and I have had lunches where we talked about my talk. But yeah, it's so cool to be here, and I really enjoyed hearing Susan's poems. I feel like getting the scholarship last year meant a lot to me because I was kind of just switching into trying to write poetry more full-time and to pursue it more professionally. And I really hadn't gotten a lot of organizational support before this award. So this is like one of the first things where I was getting financial support and also the organization and its great resources. So I think that really helped me just have time. I bought so many books with it, and yeah, have the confidence to apply for other things. And I really feel like now I have a better sense of how I can keep poetry in my life for a long time. So I'm really glad for that. I thought that I would read maybe also a poem by Susan since we're here celebrating her. And I saw someone do this at our reading, and I really liked the practice of opening with someone else's poem. That was pretty cool. And then I thought I would read maybe one or two poems that I wrote this year. I was thinking I would read two of the happiest poems I wrote this year, or the funnest ones, just because I really enjoyed reading them. And I feel like this is a celebratory event. And I think that's kind of nice to get to write celebratory poems sometimes. Okay, so I thought I would read one of Susan's poems from Verse Daily. It's called Beast Angel. And it's short, but I feel like the last line really stuck with me. So this is a poem by Susan. Beast Angel, after Eduardo C. Corral. In sleep, you come to me with a ball of yarn, bind my palms into prayer. From your arm emerges a swarm of bees. You are carried by their sound. Your body shivers with buzzing. I pray for silence, for ecstasy, not knowing its name. You float over fields of needle grass, each toe a quivering arrow through the green of morning. In this light, I open the garden of my body. Let loose hunger. Let loose the nest of field mice and the coiled snake. In this light, I pray to hold stillness like a gun. Yeah, I feel like that last line really stuck with me. I thought I would read two of my poems. So this first one is called Love Letter. And I wrote it after I saw a painting by the artist Jiha Moon. Love Letter. The heart-shaped leaves run home from the trees. Their mothers wait for them, never give up on them. Must all children give up on their mothers someday? Life is wall-shaped. Cars smash into it. That's why language is crash-shaped. But even if you poured the whole sea into it, the bowl will never become water-shaped. So all the mother-shaped sentences chasing the idea of the world through the marble archways will still just be piece of paper shaped. Even so, people write such long poems of love by walking aimlessly through the parks. There must be some reason, some season. Out past the page, something real like a peach branch. I write to you in blue ink, even though I am not a fountain pen, even though I am not a love letter. And then I have a short poem about fruit. When this I actually wrote because there's a woman who's doing this project around Coney Island where she's like putting up like poster displays of poems. So she wanted a poem to put next to the fruit stands on Coney Island. So if you're ever in Coney Island, maybe this poem will be there. It's called Hello Fruit. I meet a bowl of apples after a long sojourn in a blank desert. They light the oil lamps in my breath and lead me east into their monastery. Reading books written by mangoes, I discover a tower in an unswept winter. The star shapes are still visible when I hold each lemon up to my eye. Though the world has made me dusty, there's nothing like picking papayas, spooning into a perfect one until my eternal shape is flat again. Simple like buying groceries each morning. Let's meet there again in the summer. In every heart is a place called absolutely. I thought that would be a nice poem to end the reading on. But yeah, thank you all for being here. I look forward to coming back and attending next year and just being like part of this community of people receiving this scholarship. And maybe Wobbles will attend next year too.
That would be really, all of you are welcome. Bring everybody.
Yes, and so this does bring us to the conclusion of our program tonight. Thrilling to have the voices here, the new young emerging voices, which is the intent of the scholarship, and those of us in the audience to listen and to hear their sentiments, their poetic voice, and their beautiful poetry. So thank you very much, Hua and Susan, and thank all of you who are in the audience. Do any of you have any questions or any final thoughts that you'd like to share? You can either write them on the screen or speak up now, and we'll have a few comments and then we shall close the program.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's here and who's contributed to this program. It really takes a village. And my hope is that we'll continue to be strong in how we put this together. But I really want you all to know that we're here for you. Susan, you're in Arizona, so you can't use the Walt Whitman resources and library unless you want to like fly over. But if there's any way that any of us can be helpful specifically, please reach out. You have our contact information. And just know that we're rooting for you, and also carrying your words, your beautiful poetry with us in our hearts and soul. So be well and take good care of yourself, and thank you for this evening.
I would just like to add for the both of you, Susan and Wise, you move down the path of success. Keep connected with the birthplace. Let us know how you're doing. Stay in touch. Good luck to you both. Great, amazing young poets.
Thank you, Gwen. It was really wonderful to see you again.
It's so wonderful to see you too. I'm going to send you a little email, both of you, a little bit of an email. So just to have a little further contact sometime soon. So please be aware.
Thank you very much, both of you, Susan and Gwenn. Wonderful, wonderful.
And thank you, Robert. Robert, I just want to say that I appreciated your reading of Susan's work, and as one of the judges, and the specificity of your comments. I was more general, but I really appreciated you going into some of the words and really contributing. So thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a good summer, and I'll see some of you sooner rather than later. Nice to see you.
Okay,
And
so
Jack,
thank you, everyone. We'll
be here
say
sometime.
good night.
Good night.
Okay,
Take good care.
and enjoy the rest of the summer. Stay cool and continue writing.
And Susan, we'll see you next year. And Walt, we'll see you as part of the community next year, hopefully. Take good care. So long. Good night. Thank you, Cynthia.